this world, there's one man who refuses to follow the script.
We have rules here, you know that. And if you don't follow the rules, then what are we?
One man stands tall in the face of adversity.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
A man who rises above the ashes of hot takes.
What do you care what they say?
Easy for you to say they will love you.
It's just noise, man. You're really good at it. You might be great.
That man is Nick Kostos. And this is You Better You Bet.
If loving sports is wrong, I don't want to be right.
Where narratives are challenged and the truth is spoken.
I told you what was going to happen last week. If you didn't listen, that's on you.
This isn't talk, it's perspective.
It's not what you look at that matters. It's what you see.
This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
What's up, everybody? Happy and merry, magnificent Sports Monday to you and yours. This is You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports, as we bring you the fastest show in all of sports. The show presented today and always by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. And on this Monday morning, the world of sports absolutely, positively buzzing. And we are going to get to all the big stories, including the team in Major League Baseball that is just outside of a playoff spot. And this team, if you're unaware, will surprise you. We have a potential disaster to talk about in Minnesota with the Vikings as it concerns the quarterback position. Wait until I tell you what people had to say about yesterday's big Vikings practice with Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy. And I will ask this question to everybody. And I have a thought as to what the answer is, but I can't guarantee it. I'm curious what everybody thinks about this. And I hope this doesn't happen, to be clear. But I want to ask the question. If Matthew Stafford today suffered a season-ending injury, I don't want that to happen. But let's say it did. Players get hurt all the time. If Matthew Stafford went down for the season today, who would be the Rams starting quarterback in week 1? Who would the Rams turn to if Matthew Stafford were lost for the season? I have a very strong opinion on that potential scenario, and it will dovetail into LA's pick of Ty Simpson in the first round of this past April's NFL draft. So many more topics, of course, on this Monday to get to in the world of sports on You Better You Bet. We will close the show with all our bets for tonight in the Power Hour, the final hour, after Haynes King, our king, gets it done on Thursday night in the Hall of Fame game in Canton. What a job by Haynes King. Carolina Panthers beat Arizona at the buzzer. Cover our bets. We absolutely love to start the NFL season with a winning wager. So we'll attempt to keep it rolling coming up tonight. The phone number, 310-840-4910, youtube.com/@thekostos, TheKostos. And you can follow me, your boy, Nick Kostos, on all social platforms at the Kostos, TheKostos. But we officially begin the magnificent Sports Monday edition of You Better You Bet with a national nightmare in our nation's capital. So last time I was on the show, this past Thursday, came on the air and led the show with a signing that I thought could help transform the fortunes of the Washington Commanders this season, when the Commanders signed Stephon Diggs to be the wide receiver 2, along with wide receiver 1, Terry McLaurin. And I detailed all the reasons why this signing needed to happen, why it was an important one for Jaden Daniels, in a make-or-break season for head coach Dan Quinn, new offensive coordinator David Bling Blau, and why I thought you could build an upside case for the Washington Commanders this year, now with Stephon Diggs in tow. And to be clear, it could have been Brandon Ayuk if Brandon Ayuk were not, absolutely crazy. It turns out to be Stephon Diggs. But the Commanders now have the semblance of a working offense with 2 legitimate wide receivers to go along with a couple tight ends, including Chigakonkwo, and a defense that you could squint and tell yourself a story and say, this defense could be good this year. With Sonny Styles manning the linebacker position, the 7th overall pick of the draft. Adafe Owe and others coming over to help rush the passer. A better secondary and a new coordinator in Durante Jones, a Brian Flores disciple from Minnesota. And how I concluded the Commanders' talk on Thursday was, would it really shock anybody if Jaden Daniels were once again a top 5 quarterback, top 5 caliber quarterback in the NFL, like he was just a couple years ago when the Commanders played on Championship Sunday in Daniels' rookie year? So there was a lot of optimism around the Commanders on Thursday. Not so much today on this Monday morning. Because if you remove Jaden Daniels from the equation and you asked me, or I asked you, and I hope that you would have the correct answer, because there's only one answer to the question. Outside of Jaden Daniels, who is obviously the most indispensable, irreplaceable member of the Washington Commanders, who is the one player on this roster that you absolutely cannot lose due to injury? The correct answer, the only answer to that question, is left tackle Laramie Tunsil. One of the best left tackles in the league. I don't know if he'll ever go to the Hall of Fame, but a Hall of Fame caliber left tackle certainly when he's playing at his best. Torn triceps, confirmed this morning by Dan Quinn, the coach of the Commanders. He will undergo surgery on that torn triceps and will miss, if not the entire season, the vast majority of the season. I've seen timelines 3 to 4 months for Laramie Tunsil. Just devastating. Absolutely crushing for the Washington Commanders. And this is a situation where, like, let's say a football team is a mansion, right? Jaden Daniels might be the long-ass hallway when you walk in and the nice bedrooms. Stephon Diggs is like the bowling alley that you installed, brand new. Sonny Styles is like the tennis court outside. Laramie Tunsil's the foundation. The blindside protector of Jaden Daniels, who you might be aware is not the biggest quarterback, right? He's a little slight. It's like you take the foundation away. Now there's a crack in the foundation. And now all these nice things that you've got in the mansion, the hallway, the dining room, the bedrooms, the bowling alley, the tennis court, all of it can blow away with one strong gust of wind. That's how important Laramie Tunsil is to this offense. That's how important Laramie Tunsil is to this team. Because we can take a look at the Commanders' offensive line. And I understand that on this show, me personally, I go deeper into the weeds than 99% of other national sports shows. Because I really like this stuff. And I feel like you do also, right? The Commanders really have, and Brandon Thorne, who does an awesome job breaking down offensive line play for Establish the Run, Bleacher Report, and others, he wrote about this recently for the website Establish the Run, that the Commanders really have 2 good offensive linemen out of their 5. Tunsil is one, and he's elite, and right guard Sam Cosmi. Now you take Tunsil out of the mix, and Brandon Coleman, at least for now, will be the left tackle of this team. And Coleman might have a hypothetical ceiling, but we can be honest about this, right? Even if Coleman is not bad, you go from Hall of Fame caliber left tackle to replacement level player to backup. It is a huge downgrade, a massive downgrade. Chris Paul has another guard spot. And I'm not talking the former NBA player. Chris Paul, the guard. Nick Allegretti, the center. They let Tyler Biadasz walk. People don't know why that happened. Josh Connerly, last year's first-round pick. There was some excitement around Josh Connerly, but he didn't really show it his rookie year. He needs to be way better this year. And now you take the elite piece out of this offensive line in Laramie Tunsil. Now think about what the Washington Commanders want to do this year on offense and why this hurts even more in the new Commanders offensive scheme. The first couple years of Jaden Daniels' NFL career, Cliff Kingsbury is the offensive coordinator and the play designer, play caller in Washington. And they ran a ton of quick game, a ton of spread, right, where Jaden Daniels gets the ball and he gets rid of it immediately. Dan Quinn knows that he needs to keep his job, save his job, moves on from both his coordinators. And he promotes David Bling Blau, who was starting in the NFL a couple years ago, super young, to call the offense in Washington. And we've seen this play out at training camp, that David Blau is installing more of like a true pro-style offense for the Commanders, which means we're going to see not 100% Jaden Daniels under center, in the same way Lamar Jackson won't be under center 100% of the time in the new Ravens offense with Declan Doyle, but he's going to be under center more. Going to have his back turned to the defense a little bit more. And when you turn your back to the defense, you need a little bit more time for things to develop. And now, Laramie Tunsil's not going to be there protecting his blind side. It's devastating. Devastating for the Commanders. Now, one game is just one game out of 17. But the Commanders opened the season on the road in Philadelphia against the Eagles. And that pass rush with 5-6 deep of guys that can rush the passer, and Vic Fangio pulling the strings and calling the defensive plays. You don't think Vic Fangio saw this news? Laramie Tunsil, not that he's happy about injury, but he sees this and his mouth doesn't start watering and his eyes get as wide as dinner plates because he sees that Laramie Tunsil, the best offensive lineman on the Commanders, isn't going to be there in week 1, might not play this entire season. This sucks for the Commanders. I feel terrible for Daniels. I feel terrible for Dan Quinn, who came on the show a couple months ago. By all accounts, is a great guy. It feels like, I don't want to say death blow for the Commanders, because it's possible that Jaden Daniels is so good, like he was his rookie year, that he overcomes all of this. And maybe a couple months from now, we'll look back and say, man, remember when we were so worried about losing Tunsil, and Daniels is so good that it just doesn't matter. That can happen. But in a division like this, right, the NFC East, where whatever you think about Jalen Hurts, the Eagles are insanely talented. Whether you like the Cowboys or not, or think the Cowboys could reach the sky-high expectations, Dallas has a ton of talent on both sides of the ball and a really improved defense. And don't look now, and I am a pessimistic Giants fan saying this, but there is starting to be, even with me, a lot of optimism, not that they're going to be awesome, but optimism that the New York Football Giants could be better than expected. And now here's the Washington Commanders. Losing their left tackle, not just any left tackle, one of the best left tackles. Not just any offensive lineman, one of the best offensive linemen. In a new offensive scheme, that's really going to require great pass protection in order for it to work, with a slight quarterback. He ain't that big. You don't look at Jaden Daniels and think, oh my God, this guy's as big as Josh Allen. No one's going to confuse him with the late, great Jared Lorenzen, the hefty lefty. Ain't going to happen. And you lose Laramie Tunsil. There is still a bull case for the Commanders this year to exceed expectations. It can absolutely still happen. The defense can still be way better than expected, but we don't need to mince words here. This is a very, very bad turn of events for the Commanders. And if you asked me right now, and it's only August 10th, so we still have time, I can't put the Commanders over the Eagles in good conscience. There's no way. And you know I'm a Jalen Hurts fan. And I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a big bounce-back year with Sean Mannion now calling the plays, and A.J. Brown in Foxborough with the Patriots. I'm definitely picking the Cowboys to be better than the Commanders. You know I've been on Dallas all offseason. And as it stands right now, and this is where we can tie in all the positivity with the Giants, I have never been in my life the most optimistic Giants fan. And you guys know this if you watch or listen to the show. Just listen to the way I talked about the Knicks for the majority of the season. My Knicks. And they went on to win the NBA championship. I was nervous before Game 7 of the Western Conference Final that the Thunder were going to beat the Spurs and then railroad my Knicks in the NBA Finals. I'm never going to be a homer on this show. I tell you like it is with the Yankees. I tell you like it is with the Giants. I tell you like it is with the Knicks. I tell you like it is with the New York Rangers. With all that being said, if you made me pick right now, better record this year, Giants or Commanders, I'm going to take the Giants. I'm going to take the Giants. Even if I would admit, if the which they wouldn't do, but if the Commanders called the Giants and offered Jaden Daniels straight up for Jackson Dart, which they wouldn't do, obviously you make that trade in a New York minute, in an absolute heartbeat. So the Commanders have the better quarterback. But I think the rest of what's going on these teams, I think favors the Giants. And I want to bring up a couple John Harbaugh quotes recently as it concerns the defensive side of the ball for Big Blue. And I'm going to paraphrase some things that he said because the quotes are not that incendiary, but I think it's interesting, right, that this is kind of the way that he and others are talking about these players. So Abdul Carter was the 3rd overall pick in last year's NFL draft, right? Pass rusher out of Penn State. By most accounts, not the best rookie year. Maybe not as mature as you would like. Late to team meetings, disciplined a couple times, including by the interim coaching staff after Brian Dable was dismissed. Abdul Carter apparently told John Harbaugh this offseason he wants to be the defensive player of the year. And whether or not that can happen is immaterial. But John Harbaugh is saying Abdul Carter is putting the work in to make that potentially happen. And if Abdul Carter can be nasty this year and can really get after the quarterback's ass, along with Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau gives you something, this pass rush is going to be really good for the Giants. And then there's Arvell Reese. And you know, because I said it leading up to the NFL draft, I never thought that the Giants, who were picking 5th, would be able to get Arvell Reese. I thought the Jets should have picked him at 2, and there's a lot of positivity right now around the 2nd pick in the draft, Texas Tech pass rusher David Bailey. A lot of positivity there, where he's apparently giving the Jets tackles, who are both excellent, right? Membu and Fashanu, he's apparently giving both of them a really tough time. So this isn't that David Bailey's bad, it's that I think Arvell Reese's upside is that much higher. Now, Ruben Bain of Tampa Bay is the Defensive Rookie of the Year favorite right now, plus 450. Bailey is plus 500. Arvell Reese is next, along with Caleb Downs at BetMGM at plus 750. And the way that Giants reporters and the Giants coaching staff and players are talking about Arvell Reese has to have you excited. Now, even if you're not dialed into the minutia of what's happening at Giants camp. You don't have to be. I am. I do the work so you don't have to. Think about the way you think about Cam Scatterbo and his running style, right? Hard-nosed. You don't necessarily, if you're an opposing defender, want to be involved in a head-to-head collision, a one-on-one play with Cam Scatterbo. Well, a couple times apparently at training camp over the last couple days, Arvell Reese has stood him up and knocked him down. Like Steve Atwater to Christian Okoye in that famous play in 1990. Arvell Reese is a monster. He's a beast. And I think some teams are going to look back on the evaluation in the NFL draft and say, well, we don't know if he's an off-ball linebacker or a pass rusher, and they're really going to regret it. And you know, because I said this before the draft, it's not just because my favorite team picked him. There's optimism around the Giants. How about ESPN's Jordan Renan saying that Malik Neighbors is trending towards playing in week 1. Matters a lot, right? Unlocks their entire passing offense. Then we got another report over the weekend, positive, about the Giants receiving corps from Dan Dugan, who covers the team for The Athletic, saying rookie wide receiver out of Notre Dame, Malachi Fields, he thinks is going to be the Giants wide receiver 2 when the season opens. If that's true, and Malachi Fields is the wide receiver 2 and Malik Neighbors is the wide receiver 1, I think it raises the hypothetical ceiling on this offense big time. And here's the reason why. We know that Darius Slayton is a passable, competent NFL wide receiver. No one's ever going to confuse him with Jerry Rice, but he's a good receiver, right? He's not a great receiver. He's not a wide receiver 1, but if the Giants cut him, he would get claimed immediately. Darnell Mooney is a professional wide receiver. He's not great, but he belongs on a roster. As does Calvin Austin. You can even make the case, same thing about Juju Smith-Schuster, or perhaps a rejuvenated Odell Beckham. If Malachi Fields opens the season as a wide receiver 2, the intimation will be that he is better than those guys. He's better than a professional wide receiver in Darius Slayton. And we've seen Slayton and these other guys play for years. They don't have a hypothetical ceiling. We know what they are. We don't know what Malachi Fields is. And it will say big things, great things potentially about this Giants offense if he's good enough immediately to beat all of them out. Because there will be a level that could potentially be unlocked that others don't have. And if Neighbors plays and Fields is better than expected, and Arvell Reese is what I think he can be, And Abdul Carter is what a lot of people thought he was going to be when the Giants took him 3rd overall last year. The Giants are not going to win the Super Bowl this year. They're better than the Commanders, though, right? And I think that this was a huge topic of conversation, something I thought about a lot when I'm trying to parse through teams in the NFC East. Now, with Tunsil out and all the positivity around the Giants, I think the Giants will be better than the Commanders. But really, the crux of this, while acknowledging the Giants have upside, they do. More upside than I thought before training camp started. I'm happy to be wrong about that, at least for right now. For me, right now, I have to cross the Commanders off the list. I can't take the Commanders in a conference with the Eagles, with the Cowboys, with the Lions, the Packers, the Bears, oh my, and the Minnesota Vikings. We'll get to the Vikings later. With the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Niners. I can't take the Commanders as one of the 7 best teams, one of the 7 playoff teams in the NFC. That's how important Laramie Tunsil is to this team. And it sucks for them. It sucks for Dan Quinn. It is a buzzkill that Laramie Tunsil out 3 to 4 months, torn triceps, perhaps for the entire season. We're just getting started here on a magnificent Sports Monday edition of You Better You Bet. We have so much National Football League to get to. I will build, wait till you hear this, an upside case for the Cleveland Browns. I'm looking forward to that. We will talk about the future of Anthony Richardson, not just in Indianapolis, but for the balance of his NFL career. We'll get to what I foresee to be a problem with the LA Rams quarterback situation, but on the other side, what the hell is going on in Minnesota with Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy? That's next. You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
This segment on You Better You Bet, sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting small businesses with affordable coverage options. Get a quote today at progressivecommercial.com, progressivecommercial.com. Throughout this offseason, I have been very optimistic about the Minnesota Vikings. And I said prior to the Vikings signing Kyler Murray, when we all knew the Cardinals were going to move on from Kyler, and we knew Kyler was going to hit free agency, and because the Cardinals were paying Kyler his full salary this year, that Kyler was going to sign for the minimum somewhere else, similar to what Atlanta did with Tua Tagovailoa, paying him basically $1 million and a half to play quarterback this year. So Kyler was going to be available to a bunch of teams, and they weren't going to have to pay for him. And I said, I was not the only one, but I was pounding the drum on this. The Minnesota Vikings needed to sign Kyler Murray to unlock that upside that Kyler has as a former Heisman Trophy winner, number 1 overall pick in the draft, to help elevate Justin Jefferson and the Vikings offense after the disaster we saw last year, primarily led by J.J. McCarthy. So the Vikings signed Kyler Murray, and I came on this show and said, Vikings are going to win the NFC North this year. And at worst, if they don't win the division, and it's a really hard division, tough division to be fair, the Minnesota Vikings will be a playoff team this year in the NFC. I'm not going to back off that. Not yet, at least. But what's happening right now at Vikings training camp is major cause for concern for Vikings fans, for anyone like me who's interested in betting the Minnesota Vikings this year. And honestly, it's not the best news for fantasy football players either, who might be excited to take, Justin Jefferson this year, or Jordan Addison, or Jordan Mason, Aaron Jones, or anyone else on the Minnesota Vikings offense. This has been a legitimate, even some people are saying otherwise, that it's kind of a rigged competition for Kyler Murray. But this has been a pretty legitimate, in terms of reps given out, quarterback competition between Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy. Now, I didn't like that when I first heard it. My thought is, give Kyler all the reps and get him ready to go. We saw J.J. McCarthy last year. I think we know that J.J. McCarthy will be a limited NFL starting quarterback. Kyler has this theoretical upside that hasn't been unlocked yet. Give him all the reps with the quarterback whisperer, head coach, and Kevin O'Connell, and let's see how this goes week 1, Sunday, September 13th at home against the Green Bay Packers. It has me a little concerned right now that Kyler Murray, by all accounts, not some accounts, all accounts, is failing to put a ton of separation between himself and J.J. McCarthy in this quarterback competition. So Minnesota held yesterday on Sunday a big open practice with fans in attendance. And Judd Zulgad, who has covered the Vikings for a really long time and has a great Viking Substack, I was reading it this morning, wrote about the quarterback competition, Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy, that this quarterback competition is, quote, a cause for concern. And that neither Kyler nor J.J. has shown any consistency or lived up to what you want to see from an NFL quarterback. If you read all the accounts from beat reporters, people in attendance, etc., they will tell you that at worst, they were at a dead heat yesterday, JJ and Kyler Murray. At worst, it was even. And most reporters will say, and I know because I read a lot about it last night and this morning in preparation for the show, that JJ McCarthy was the better quarterback. And that JJ is starting to string some decent days together. This is not good news for Minnesota. Now, you could maybe spin this and say, well, if J.J. McCarthy's good, isn't that a good thing? The Vikings took him in the first round a couple years ago. What if J.J.'s able... To be fair, it was only one season for J.J. He missed his rookie year due to injury. Maybe it's just one bad year. We've seen quarterbacks have bad rookie seasons and bounce back big time. I'm a Giants fan. It happened with Eli Manning from year 1 into year 2. Just the fact that Kyler can't beat this guy out cleanly I don't know how you hear that or how you read that and not have negative thoughts about what this could be this year in Minnesota. Like, that's how bad J.J. McCarthy was last year. He was absolutely, positively brutal. And I have nothing against him. I have nothing against the young man. I root for athletes to succeed. I want him to do well. I want him to do really well in his career. Why would I root against him? I have no personal interest in this at all. Just that my opinion, as someone who has been watching sports his entire life and is obsessed with the National Football League, is that Kyler Murray's better. And the fact that Kyler has not already put his stamp on this and guaranteed that he's going to be, I want to be crystal clear on this. I do still believe Kyler starting in week 1. And I canvassed this morning. I texted a bunch of people in the NFL, media members, and otherwise, people that I'm close with. Who do you think is going to start for Minnesota in week 1? Everyone said Kyler. So I'm not trying to be Chicken Little here. Sky's falling. J.J. McCarthy starting week 1 against the Packers. I still think it's going to be Kyler Murray. And I'll still have some excitement going into the year. And we got preseason games coming up this week. So we're going to learn a lot over the next couple of weeks. I do think it'll be Kyler. But again, the fact that we are here and Kyler has not already been named the starting quarterback, or at least even if Kevin O'Connell wanted to keep the facade of a competition up, the fact that we don't have local and national reporters all saying, yeah, done deal, Kyler's going to be the quarterback. Like, think about what's going on in Cleveland. We'll get to the Browns coming up in a little bit with Deshaun Watson and Shadur Sanders. Like, you have reporters right now, locally and nationally, saying that Deshaun Watson is the front runner to start in week 1. You have local and national reporters about the Vikings saying J.J. McCarthy outplayed Kyler Murray in this big practice. This is not what you want. If you're a Vikings fan, someone that wants to bet the Vikings, if you're a fantasy football player, you don't want this. You know what you want? You want Kyler to be awesome. That's what gets you to the true potential of this team. If Kyler Murray is awesome. Now, I don't talk to Justin Jefferson. Him and I are not friends. I would imagine that he's not necessarily pleased with this development. The fact that neither of these guys is playing, and again, consider the quote from Judd Zolgad, neither has shown any consistency or lived up to what you want to see from an NFL quarterback. So this isn't J.J. McCarthy's dusting Kyler Murray and J.J.'s awesome. This is they're both not good, and J.J. at times has been like less bad than Kyler has been. That's what it is. It's brutal. And if Kyler can't get it together, and I would still bet on it happening because I'm a Kyler Murray fan, and I'm a little biased, and I'm honest about that. If Kyler Murray can't get it together, we can be really honest about this. I'm still going to pick the Vikings to the playoffs, assuming Kyler starts week 1. But I have to acknowledge the downside scenario here, right? If Kyler's not good this year, the Vikings are coming in last in this division. I'm not a fan of the Lions' offense, or defense rather, but the offense is going to be electric. Like, the Lions are not going to lose enough games. I know they came in last year with a winning record. I doubt that happens again. Because we know the Lions are going to score a ton of points on offense this year. The Packers, I don't think are going to win the Super Bowl this year. But, I mean, if Kyler's not going to be good, Green Bay's definitely going to be bad. And we'll beat Minnesota in week 1. And there's Chicago with Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, even if the defense is going to stink. The Vikings will come in last if this is what it's going to be at the quarterback position. You bet on this Monday. Nick Kostos and you, Westwood One Sports. And I just want to play this out. So let's assume, and I hope this is not the case. I don't think it will be. Again, I think Kyler's going to get it figured out. I think Kyler's too good. Maybe I'll be wrong. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. But let's say we get to the end of the season. And maybe it's not a total train wreck for the Vikings. Maybe they're not like 4-13, but they missed the playoffs again. And Kyler has shown that he's not the answer, so he's not going to get a big deal to return as Vikings starting quarterback. And we see enough J.J. McCarthy this year to really determine that he probably doesn't have it as a true franchise quarterback in the NFL. If that happens, and we have to acknowledge, it occupies some percent probability, right? Maybe bigger than I'd like to admit. Does Kevin O'Connell get fired? Does Kevin O'Connell lose his job? if Kyler Murray doesn't live up to expectations and J.J. McCarthy doesn't have it? Does Kevin O'Connell lose his job? The Vikings moved on from Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, their GM, in kind of like very weird fashion this offseason. There's clearly a power struggle going on there. It feels like everyone's in a rush to blame everybody else for the J.J. McCarthy pick. Here's what I know. Kevin O'Connell's in charge. Sam Darnold went to Seattle. Daniel Jones went to Indianapolis. And both were leagues better than J.J. McCarthy was last year. And now Kyler is the guy picked to compete with him. And we have, and it can still prove to be the truth, we, myself included, have talked about Kevin O'Connell being the quarterback whisperer, right? One of those coaches, capital T, who can coax it out of like, hey, here's Nick Mullins. Here's Josh Dobbs off the street, the new backup quarterback of the Lions with Teddy Bridgewater retiring again. Where Kevin O'Connell figures it out with whoever the quarterback is. That's been his reputation. That reputation took a hit last year with how poorly things went. With J.J. McCarthy, Max Brosmer, Carson Wentz was probably the best of the bunch. Think about that. Carson Wentz was probably the best of the bunch. If J.J. stinks again this year, and Kyler doesn't have it this year, does Kevin O'Connell return as Vikings head coach? I hate that on August 10th, this is the question I'm asking, and this is what I'm thinking about as it concerns Minnesota, but we have to keep it a buck, as the kids would say. Kyler and JJ have both not been good at training camp, and Kyler has not yet been named the quarterback. That's bad. It's still August 10th. More than a month to go until the first game of the season for Minnesota. Things can and will potentially change, with either in a positive or a negative way. But I need to get this on everybody's radar, because I am not liking right now what's coming out of Minnesota with the Vikings. Take a quick break. And on the other side, we'll continue the NFL conversation. An upside case for the Cleveland Browns and the NFL career. Will there be one moving forward for Anthony Richardson? Keep it locked right here. You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM.
basically we talked about that the quarterbacks are gonna play in the preseason, and obviously if it's still a competition at that time, why wouldn't you start one and start the other, and then we would go from there. That was really what the conversation was. He wasn't wrong in what we talked about, which you've all known that they're gonna play in the preseason, and someone has to go out there for the first snap. Thus, they would be the one that starts.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Today, BetMGM players will receive an Any Sport Parlay Boost token. To use the Parlay Boost token, add a parlay wager to your bet slip and activate the token. If you win the wager made with the token, you'll receive extra winnings. Download the BetMGM app today, and please gamble responsibly. I've got at least one baseball bet I like for tonight. Perhaps Tyler or Kenny will talk me into another. Maybe we get a parlay cooked up. But at least one bet for me tonight in Major League Baseball that we'll give out at the end of the show. The voice you heard coming back from break kind of sounds like me after this weekend. Went to Saratoga, went to the racetrack with my college friends, and smoked a pack of cigarettes. I've officially hit the point where I am #too old for this bleep. I won't be doing that again. But Todd Monken, the head coach of the Browns, has got that gravelly voice, right? Talking about the quarterback competition between Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders. Now, I've been telling you on the show for months that I believe Deshaun Watson is going to be the week 1 starting quarterback for the Browns. I think it makes all the sense in the world, even if a lot of people don't, for the Browns, and the final year of Deshaun Watson's insane guaranteed contract, which is going to go down as one of the worst contracts and trades in the history of sports. That given this is Deshaun Watson's final year under contract, let's see what you've got on this investment. In a year where the Browns are not going to contend for anything serious, see what you've got in Watson. You can always pull the plug and go to Shedeur, and you can always pull that plug if you want to and go to Dylan Gabriel. And everything, as I've talked about for months, and a lot of other people have said as well, for the Browns, it's all about the 2027 NFL draft. Ultimately, when it's all said and done, in terms of potentially winning the Super Bowl down the line, getting a franchise quarterback dropped into this roster. So I've been thinking about every team in the NFL, right? Just because I really like it, but also, we're about a month away, and I want to finalize all my thoughts for content. And I also want to get all my bets in, right? I want to figure out what I want to do. And I try to analyze and acknowledge upside and downside cases for each team. So for the Cleveland Browns, the downside case is basically the case. The win total is 5.5. So the betting market is telling you this is most likely to be a 6-win team this year, to go 6-11. So there isn't really much of an upside case built in. I think a lot of people think the Browns are going to be very bad. And you can understand, the thought process there. The quarterback situation is an absolute train wreck with Watson and Shedeur Sanders, at least going into the year. And I think the offensive line has significant issues right now for Cleveland. And if the Browns are going to be terrible, those will be the two primary reasons why. And just think about the offensive line. Spencer Fano was the top 10 pick at left tackle. He's being shuffled all along the offensive line. He's also, been benched at points during training camp. DeJuan Jones has gotten reps at left tackle. That's not great. Zion Johnson is new, expected to play left guard. Elton Jenkins is expected to be the center. He's new. Titus Howard's expected to be the right tackle. He's new. So quarterback and offensive line could be what holds this team back. But I want to at least ask the question of every team that's expected to be bad in the league. Can they be good? And if so, how can they be good? Like the Arizona Cardinals might be better than we all expect in terms of on-field quality. But they can't be good because they play in an insane division, right? With the Rams, the Seahawks, and the 49ers. It's a little similar with the AFC North, but I've got big-time questions about Cincinnati. I'm not picking the Bengals to the playoffs now with that defense. Aaron Rodgers is 42 years old. I think the Steelers could fall short of expectations. And I love the Ravens this year, but you have to acknowledge, new head coach, new offensive play caller. Offensive play caller's 13 years younger than me, and I'm in my early 40s. Doesn't have to go great. So if the Browns are going to exceed expectations this year, how does it happen? It happens because Deshaun Watson is better than expected. Now, no one and even Browns fans might not root for him. No one really wants to root for this guy. And we don't have to kind of rehash everything that went on with him and all these masseuses, right, that led to him getting suspended and kind of becoming a pariah, right? On field, he's been brutal, in addition to all of that, and injured. Shoulder injuries, multiple, plural, Achilles tears, not one Achilles tear, Achilles tears, plural. But this is also true. And I said this years when this trade first went down, and Ken Barkley and I are doing You Better You Bet together, and we're talking about the Browns. Deshaun Watson was never a fit in Kevin Stefanski's offense. Think about the way I have talked about Atlanta's offense this offseason, and the fact that Tua Tagovailoa kind of profiles as a Kevin Stefanski type quarterback. Get the ball, get it out quickly. Deshaun Watson is a spread quarterback. Kevin Stefanski does not really run a spread offense. This was always a poor fit. What about Todd Monken's offense? Todd Monken's offense, to me, kind of suits the skill set of Deshaun Watson. So if you wanted to tell you, and it's not impossible that this could be the case, new offensive scheme. My question to everybody, what if Deshaun Watson's better than expected? Why can't that happen? Let's think about the rest of the roster. The Cleveland Browns actually have a pretty good roster outside of quarterback, and the offensive line is not great, and I understand. It's like, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? I understand. Like, those are things that can cripple an NFL team, so I'm not trying to hand wave away quarterback and offensive line. The skill positions are kind of stacked with good young players. Quinshon Judkins and Dillon, you know what I want. I want to talk to Sampson at running back. Harold Fannin is a stud young tight end. Jerry Jeudy is somehow still 21 years old. I'm kidding, but he's not old. With the two rookie receivers, Denzel Boston and Casey Concepcion, positive reports about both in training camp. How about this defense? Yes, they traded Myles Garrett, who's going to walk into the Hall of Fame when it's all said and done, right? Trading him to the Los Angeles Rams. The Browns defense has good players. Like Jared Verse is not a scrub who they got in the Myles Garrett trade. He might not be Myles Garrett, but he's a good player. A very good player. Das Wunderkind, Alex Veit, rushing the passer. Mason Graham, a top 5 pick. Carson Schweschinger is the reigning defensive rookie of the year. Denzel Ward is a stud corner. They just signed Grant Delpit to an extension. This is a defense in Cleveland that has stud players at all 3 levels. Good young running backs. Potentially good young receivers. A good young tight end. Can they exceed expectations? I'm in the minority here. I don't think it can happen with Shedeur Sanders. I don't like Shedur's pocket presence. I'm not rooting against him. I just don't like what I've seen from him. And if I could choose, like if I were booking this or scripting it, I would script it to be for Shedeur. It's better for content if it's Shedeur. I don't think Shedeur is very good. I don't think Dylan Gabriel's very good. And while Deshaun Watson's been bad recently, he's also been good in the past. And if you think Deshaun Watson could have a bounce-back year, why can't the Browns hover around 500 this year in the AFC? Hour 1 done, hour 2 for you coming up on the other side. We will start hour 2 with our friend, Brad Evans.
names in the business are on You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos.
Hey, this is Joe Buck, and you have done it. You have found it. You are listening to You Better You Bet. Great decision.
This is Bob Costas, not Kostos, but you are listening to Nick Kostos on You Better You Bet.
Hi, this is Kevin Harlan of CBS, Westwood One, and TNT, and I'm listening, as you do every day, to You Better You Bet with the most handsome single man in the radio business. A man who, if I was not married for 38 years, I might consider myself the kind of guy that can electrify a listening audience and a crowd of bystanders watching him do what he does so well each and every day. Continue to listen right here on You Better You Bet.
This is You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. Brought to you by BetMGM.
The magnificent Sports Monday edition of You Better You Bet rolls on. Nick Kostos, our crew, and you here on Westwood One Sports. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. NFL season almost here. First hour of the show today devoted to a bunch of news in the National Football League from over the weekend. Devastating news for the Washington Commanders, losing star left tackle Laramie Tunsil, Hall of Fame caliber left tackle Laramie Tunsil, for at least 3 to 4 months, if not the entire season, torn triceps. The Commanders can still be good this year if Janie Daniels can recapture the top 5 form he displayed in his rookie year when the Commanders went to the NFC Championship game. But as it stands right now, I have the Commanders. It gives me no pleasure to say this. Last place team in the NFC East. With optimism abounding on both sides of the ball, my New York Football Giants. Malik Neighbors looks like he's going to play in week one. Rookie receiver Malachi Fields turning heads at Giants camp. And a lot of positive buzz around Abdul Carter and Darvell Reese. Good stuff right now from the New York Football Giants defense. We got into the Minnesota Vikings and the fact that I'm very upset that Kyler Murray has not yet won this quarterback job in Minnesota. And also, reports from over the weekend indicate J.J. McCarthy outplayed Kyler Murray at practice this weekend. Not great. Not great. It's not what you want. I still think Kyler will be the Vikings' Week 1 starting quarterback when it's all said and done. But if you're someone who, like me, has been optimistic about the Vikings this offseason, you have to temper that enthusiasm at least a little bit. And if you're a fantasy football player, are you as excited to draft Justin Jefferson if this is what the Vikings quarterback situation is going to be this year? We'll get to that and more with our friend Brad Evans coming up in a moment. And we close the hour talking about the Cleveland Browns quarterback competition, Deshaun Watson, Shedeur Sanders, Ian Rappaport of NFL Media saying Deshaun Watson seems likelier than not to start in week 1. And why I believe if you think the Browns can exceed expectations this year, Deshaun Watson needs to be the quarterback, not Shedeur Sanders. We'll get to some of the comings and goings from the Pro Football Hall of Fame this past weekend, including what Adam Vinatieri had to say at his Hall of Fame speech later this hour. And we'll talk some Major League Baseball as well. And I can't wait to discuss the one team exceeding expectations in such a big way that if you're unaware of what's happening, this is going to knock your socks off. That's coming up later this hour. But joining us right now, as promised, off of vacation. He doesn't really take vacation. He's constantly grinding because it's that time of year. Our teammate here on Westwood One Sports, the host of BetMGM Tonight, along with our friend Pat Boyle, weeknight 6 to 11 p.m. Eastern, the one, the only, the legendary Brad Evans, on Twitter at Noisy Huevos. Brad, welcome to the show. Happy Monday. Hola, amigo.
Hola, amigos! Most glorious time of the year. Let the fantasy drafts begin.
Are you feeling it, my friend? Are you? Because I was with some of my college buddies this weekend. Ton of fantasy football conversation. We're all getting ready for our home leagues. Are you feeling it, my friend?
Yeah, definitely, because I have my home draft coming up on Saturday, believe it or not. So, I'm the commissioner. It's a Casa de Evans, a tequila. Mas tequila is going to be flowing. We play an auction style, so everybody is in attendance, and I'm getting all kinds of keeper information fast and furious and trying to keep all the ducks in a row ahead of the grand event. Chances are, I think there is probably going to be over at least 7.5 severely inebriated dudes come the start of draft time.
And I wouldn't have it any other way. So here's what we're going to do in this interview with Brad. We're going to hit a bunch of news items in the NFL. We'll filter it into like a sports betting and fantasy football conversation because, let's be honest, we all love both. Let's start in Minnesota with the Vikings, Brad, where I still think it'll be Kyler Murray, and I'm excited about what the Vikings offense could be if Kyler is what I think he can be. But to be fair, that has not been the case thus far at Vikings training camp. What would you say your level of excitement or pessimism is right now with Kyler, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and the Minnesota Vikings offense as a whole? Brad, I think you may have accidentally muted your microphone. So I don't know if we could try and get this fixed. Mike Brown, let me know if we can get this fixed with Brad. We can hear Brad.
1 2 1 2.
Oh, now we've got you back. Go ahead on the Minnesota Vikings.
Okay, yeah, I would say I'm rather tepid, lukewarm on the situation right now. In Minnesota, it's not like this offense is drowning in one of the 10,000 lakes there in that great state. And I still feel that Kyler Murray is going to win the job. So you and I are in agreement in lockstep. He is going to be the man under center in week 1. But is it a surefire thing that he is going to be the starter over the full 17-game slate? Of course, Andrew Amp is always lurking. But yeah, I understood that, I read the same thing you did, that J.J. McCarthy outplayed him in practice this weekend. But that's one instance. Every other instance that I've read in the insights, the boots on the ground there at Minnesota training camp has said the antithesis of that Murray has steadily won practices over J.J. McCarthy. So I think the preseason is going to be very telling. I think both these guys got to see meaningful action, get meaningful assessment. Again, being a gambling man, being the fantasy football aficionado that I am, I'm still betting on Kyler Murray to win the gig. And I think Justin Jefferson is somebody you cannot discount because he is going to be peppered, going to be hammered with targets. Could be upwards of 150, 170 looks this season. Pump up the volume alone will make Justin Jefferson a top 5 fantasy wideout this season, especially in PPR leagues. So stay the course.
Give me 30 seconds here or less on the Vikings running back room, where I think if you asked a lot of NFL fans, fantasy football players at this point, Brad, in August, pick Aaron Jones or Jordan Mason, I think most would probably take Aaron Jones with the way the last couple seasons have gone in Minnesota, Jones for the balance of his career. It feels like to me, Jordan Mason is kind of wresting that away from Aaron Jones right now. Resting spelled with a W, not with an R. Do you feel the same way here? Are you more bullish on Mason or Aaron Jones as we enter draft season?
Honestly, it depends upon your league scoring format. If you're in a points per reception league, the stone hands Jordan Mason not going to catch a lot of balls. That's going to be Aaron Jones's territory, to say the least. So I would probably give the advantage of Jones in that format. If it's a half-point PPR, I might lean more toward Jordan Mason. He is a banger. He is a guy that can move the change and really, blast his way through contact between the tackles. So he looks like he is going to really sew up and line up the majority of the red zone and goal line work. So there could be a realistically 7 to 9 touchdown upside for Jordan Mason this season, and what should be a healthy environment because KOC is calling the shot. So again, all depends upon your format. Mason more in TD heavy leagues, and Jones more in receptions heavy formats.
Well, we have some breaking news in the end. I just want to get this in here, and I'll talk about it after the interview with Brad. Detroit Lions center Cade Mays, who signed a 3-year, $25 million deal with the team this offseason, suffered a, quote, significant wrist injury that will sideline him indefinitely, per head coach Dan Campbell. This is per all the NFL insiders. We already know, obviously, Taylor Decker's not there anymore. Penei Sewell moving to left tackle. I think the guards have upside, but also downside. Christian Mahogany and Tate Ratledge for the Lions. That is a big loss for Detroit, potentially. We'll get to that coming up a little later in the show. But Brad, back to some of the fantasy stuff here. And I want to stay in the NFC North, and let's go to Chicago with the Bears, where ton of excitement around second-year receiver Luther Burden. I think Burden's already the best receiver on the team. I like him better than Rome Odunze. Groin injury this weekend at camp. Some reports, including one from CBS, say that he's hopeful to play in week 1. What should fantasy players do with Luther Burden right now?
Oh, pounce like a panther. Wow! On the discount that is going to be forthcoming. I think you're going to see him slide a full round in a lot of drafts. According to ADP, pre-injury.
We have lost Brad's audio again. Brad, something is going on with your microphone here. You need to stop moving for a second here. Do we have you, Brad?
Yeah, I don't know what's
We've
going
got
on.
you.
I'm not touching anything. It's super weird, but I'm back.
All right, let's do this, Brad. Let's do this. So I'll produce this on the air. We do this on a program called VMix. Just refresh the call, come back in. We'll check your audio, and that should take care of the issues. So Brad is going to be back with us in a second here. Just to reiterate the news around Detroit, this stinks for the Lions. Because if you want, and I think Detroit's offense is going to be amazing this year with Goff and Jamison Williams, and obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, you could poke some holes in this offensive line if rookie right tackle Blake Miller doesn't have the goods. And now without their starting center, we'll do more on this later in the show. Brad is back with us here. Brad, please continue on Luther Burden.
Yeah, look, I will say this, take the discount all to get a day long. I think he's going to slide a full round. So he was going consistently in like round 4 of a lot of early fantasy exercises, even in PPR, full PPR leagues. I think he's going to be more the round 5 guy. Honestly, I could have a neck-to-neck ADP come months in with his tag team partner there in Roma Dunze, and I would still go Burton because you and I are very much on the same wavelength. Look, I understand soft tissue issues can linger. There are nasty injuries, could flare up. The groin, the love muscle, not the most alluring injury to have by any stretch of the imagination. But it sounds like he's going to be ready week 1. Maybe he's going to be limited to week 1, but it doesn't matter. You give me 15 games of full strength Luther Burden, he's going to absolutely shine. I still think he's going to be a top 15 fantasy wideout. So again, folks, view this as a blessing, not a curse. Burden, take the discount. He's going to turn a handsome profit this year.
Another second-year Brad, NFC North wide receiver that I'm pretty excited about. A lot of glowing training camp reports out of Green Bay with last year's first-round pick, Matthew Golden, who apparently is going to replace Romeo Dobbs' role in that offense, which basically means he's going to be on the field for every single play. I'm pretty bullish on Golden and the talent he had coming out of Texas. Where are you at right now on Matthew Golden in the Green Bay passing game?
Oh, you and I are symbiotic, my friend. If you're going to invest in a single Green Bay wide receiver, it's not Jaden Reed. I know a lot of people are bullish on Christian Watson and those bulky hamstrings. Give me Matthew Golden, especially at his ADP, his average draft position, well after pick 100 right now. WR 52 on average, Nick, going in fantasy drafts. And I'm with you, man. As long as Jordan Love doesn't overthrow him like he did roughly 10,000 times, it seemed last year. It seems, really puzzling and bizarre he was able to do that because Gold's got that sub-4, 340-yard speed. He was one of the, pack leaders in separation yards per target among all NFL wide receivers last year. I know he didn't score a single touchdown in the regular season, only had the one TD grab in the postseason, but it would not remotely surprise me if he is the clubhouse leader, the team leader in receiving yards this year. For him to get to 1,000 yards, it's plus 400. Take my money. Take it.
See, I still like Christian Watson. I even like Tucker Kraft a little more, but with that being said, I do think this will be a way better season for Matthew Golden. Needs to be on the fantasy football draft radar. Another young wide receiver, Brad, who's coming back from injury, is Malik Neighbors. And it feels like, if you read the reports, ESPN's Jordan Renan saying over the weekend that Neighbors looks more likely to play than not play week 1, Sunday night, September 13th, as the Giants host the Dallas Cowboys. What about Malik Neighbors? And I know a lot of people have been worried about Neighbors this offseason with, the setback to the injury last year. What about Malik Neighbors?
I'm all in. Look, I had a fantasy draft a couple of weeks ago amongst, several experts, the Kings Classic, which I'm a co-founder of in Canton, Ohio, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, 14-team league. And my goal going in that draft was to get Neighbors at some point. So what I did, it's, 2-quarterback format. And I grabbed Jackson Dart in round 3, and I followed then with Malik Neighbors in round 4. And that was a little portion of round 4. You are no longer be able to get his services, Neighbors, at that juncture in your draft. His ADP is ascending because of positivity is ascending right now in the Big Apple, and it's completely warranted. Now, it could be on a snap count week 1 against the arch rival Dallas Cowboys, but I think it's going to be all systems go in week number 2. A monstrous matchup there, to say the least, against the LA Rams on the road at SoFi. And then you follow with the Tennessee Titans, which and Arizona, both at home, and at Washington. Gosh, those next 3 games after those first 2 are spectacular for Neighbors. He's going to be probably upwards of 150 targets, if not more this season. You're going to see more Neighbors 2024 than, of course, the one you saw limited action last year. Push the entire stack of chips in, clack-a-clack, roll the dice, take on the little risk. Neighbors is going to be a baller and shot caller this year.
Our friend Brad Evans on the show, host of BetMGM Tonight here on Westwood One Sports, fantasy football aficionado and expert. Follow him on Twitter at Noisy Huevos. Brad, let's talk about the Indianapolis Colts wide receiver position, where it looks like Daniel Jones is going to be good to go. We'll start week 1, Sunday, September 13th at home against the Baltimore Ravens. Alec Pierce, the big money, free, not acquisition, but they re-signed him, 4 years, $114 million. We don't know when he's going to be back. He's currently out with an injury right now at Colts training camp, and Josh Downs has a groin injury now, and we don't know when Josh Downs is going to be back at practice. What about Alec Pierce, Josh Downs in Indy?
Can you sign Keenan Allen already? That's what the Colts honestly need to do right now. And I know they've been kind of flirting with that idea, but Ty Warren is a guy whose arrow is skyrocketing right now. It's a flaming arrow pointing upwards. He's a guy that could have a really spectacular start to the regular season. The first 3 games for the Colts, Baltimore at home, at Kansas City and Houston. It's not the easiest road to hoe by any stretch of the imagination, but Warren is going to be a guy who's going to be central to the offense when they are not putting ball in the belly. Of course, if Jonathan Taylor, their run-first team, but Warren is sure to see a spike in target share straight out of the gates. And if I'm going to invest in, either one of those wide receivers, I'm not touching Alec Pierce with a 10,000-foot pole. Strangely, he's still going at WR36 in drafts conducted this month around pick number 77 overall. Downs going about a round later. Downs got that groin injury, but much like Luther Bird, a guy that can recover in plenty of time. But again, if you're going to be moving anybody up, your fantasy cheat sheets, it's Tyler Warren, who seems to not be getting a whole lot of love, unlike some other tight ends, namely my guy, Colson Loveland.
Pick one running back, Brad, on the Jacksonville Jaguars this year.
If I had one running back, honestly, I'm going to go with Chris Rodriguez. Bayshaw Tutin's
We
price
disagree
tag,
on this, but a lot of people agree with you. And it's at price, right? Chris Rodriguez later.
Yes.
I'd rather roll the dice on the upside of Bayshaw Tutin, but a lot of people think it's Chris Rodriguez. Tell us why.
Well, I will say this. I'm going to give your boy some credit. You look at the advanced analytics, Rootin' Tootin' was scooting last year, a guy that was top 15 in the yak per attempt. But C-Rod obviously has a history of Cohen. They were together at the University of Kentucky. He is a battering ram, a rolling boulder downhill. He's going to get predominantly, I think, a lot of the red zone and goal line work and siphon away some of those valuable touches from Bayshaw Tutin. So Tutin's going to be the in-between 20s guy. I feel C-Rod is going to be the inside the 20 guy. And then Quinn Allen is going to be the primary pass down back. So you're looking at like a 1-2 down workload for Tutin. He's getting way too high in price, going right now back in RB2 class in 12-team leagues. I will kindly pass, but I realize and respect your bullishness.
More difficult question, same team. Pick one Jaguars wide receiver this year and tell us why.
Yeah, it's probably Parker Washington. He just continues to make highlight catch after highlight catch in training camp. Yes, you have pads on, but you don't have any pants on. You got, run around in shorts. But he's making sensational catch after sensational catch down the field in red zone situations. He absolutely balled out over the second half of last season. So he's got that established rapport and chemistry with Trevor Lawrence. And, I respect Liam Cohen and his play calling ability. I think Washington will line up inside, line up outside. Brian Thomas has had a pretty good camp as well. I got Brenton Strange, as the tight end, a primary weapon of choice in regards to that position. But Parker Washington, I feel, has got through and through WR2 potential in 12-team leagues. And right now are getting him at really a WR3 price tag. So nice little type of potential for him.
We usually don't see, Brad, running backs or skill position players, period, with where Jeremiah Love goes in the NFL draft, 3rd overall, not go potentially until the 3rd round of a fantasy football draft. It feels like, though, that's where Jeremiah Love is going to end up in most fantasy drafts. You agree or disagree with that? What should people do with Jeremiah Love?
Invest at that round 3 price tag. Again, in the Kings Classic draft that I participated in a couple of weeks ago, 2 players I had on both rosters, Malik Neighbors, Jeremiah Love. I gladly took the discount on Love. I got him for $32 on a salary cap draft. Got him in the middle portion of round 3. In the 14-team snake draft. I felt really damn good about it. Look, I understand Tyler Algier is going to be there, and he's a certifiable goal line gremlin, but how many red zone situations is Arizona really going to be in this year? That is a $64,000 question. the defense sucks, and that is only going to benefit Jeremiah Love, who's got outstanding hands. I think the floor for him, Nick, this season is 55 receptions. He may only score 7 touchdowns. He may not rush for 1,000 yards, but similar like a Christian McCaffrey in his rookie year, he's going to be kind of a jack of all trades. And if you play in a receptions-heavy format, my God, you're going to be doing backflips over Jeremiah Love if you score him in round 3.
My final question, Brad. If you have the first pick in your fantasy football league this year, would you recommend to our listeners and viewers Bijan Robinson? And maybe you have a curveball for us, but it feels like it's either Bijan Robinson or Jahmyr Gibbs. Both got their contract extensions last week. Bijan or Gibbs, and why?
Well, now you got the big injury news with the starting center of Detroit being out. So that is an impact on Jahmyr Gibbs. And even before that news, I was still on Bijan Robinson. Both these guys are jack of all trades. They're the ultimate and sharpest Swiss Army knives. But Atlanta's defense, we'll see if it improves much. But I think Bijan Robinson's going to be a darn near L word, G word, easy money phrase you to put out there for like 70 grabs. He's going to run for another 1,200 yards. I think he is a guy that, honestly, Nick, is going to finish with above 2,000 combined yards. You throw in probably 12 to 15 touchdowns as well. Stone cold killer. He will be the best player in fantasy football this year. Grab all the shares at pick numero uno.
Give us a take, Brad, on fantasy that you have percolating right now that we have not discussed yet in this interview.
Chase Brown, always getting down with the former ILL standout. Would not surprise me if he pushes Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs to have the highest opportunity share in the NFL. You got to improve defense, which means better game scripts for him, but he doesn't leave the field anyways. He has virtually no competition for touches. He is going to be in the conversation to be the RB1 of ones. I still feel it's going to be Bijan Robinson, but if somebody were to pull the upset card over Gibbs and Robinson, Chase Brown is that guy, and you can get him right now in the latter half of round 2, an early round steal.
See, you know what's funny about that? I was going to say maybe Kenneth Walker could be that guy, but Kenneth Walker's going in the first round. So it costs, you'd much rather have Chase Brown, right?
Yeah, you would. Or Marion Hampton as well was going around 2.
See, you like Omarion Hampton a little more than I do. I'm worried about Keaton Mitchell and Kamani Vidal in that backfield with Mike McDaniel.
Okay, that's warranted. But Keaton Mitchell is a guy that will supplant him occasionally. I think they're going to coexist on the field at the same time in various packages. Keaton Mitchell could be outstanding on wheel routes. But you're looking at like maybe siphoning off 5 to 8 touches per game. Omarion Hampton is a tackle-breaking machine. And now you got Mike McDaniel calling the shots. Yeah, sign me up.
I love Brad. I love Pat Boyle. BetMGM tonight, part of Westwood One Sports, 6 to 11 p.m. Eastern on this network. Brad, great to have you and Pat back in the saddle coming up tonight. Stay well, and we'll catch up with you down the line.
Junior Caminero over 1.5 total bags. I'm out!
No, Brad giving us a baseball bet on the way. I'd absolutely love that. Brad and Pat Boyle, weeknight, 6 to 11 p.m. Eastern. BetMGM tonight here on Westwood One Sports. Thank you to our friend, Brad Evans. Just a minute or two on this Detroit Lions injury that we broke into the Brad interview to share with you. Cade Mays, who was the center that the Lions went out and targeted early in free agency. 3 years, $25 million. Again, Dan Campbell addressing the media this morning in Detroit. Significant wrist injury for Cade Mays is expected to miss a, quote, significant portion of the season. Very, 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 very bad news. Mays, an excellent center, and they really need him or a steady hands in the interior when you consider the 2 guards in Detroit are high upside players, but also potentially low downside players as well, in Christian Mahogany and in Tate Ratledge. Now, we think Penei Sewell, who was obviously a top 10 pick, the first pick of the Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell regime, Penei Sewell, who goes to left tackle now with Taylor Decker no longer on the Lions. The guess is that Penei Sewell's going to be good enough to just go and be awesome at left tackle. That you don't have a lot of concerns about that. You know, the Lions are going to be starting a rookie, Blake Miller, at right tackle. Maybe he's awesome, maybe he's not. And if the interior of the line is going to be shaky, consider how this team is built, the Lions. I think their defense is going to be terrible this year. The secondary is hot garbage, and I like Jack Campbell's a good linebacker. Aiden Hutchinson's a stud, right? Pass rusher. Brian Branch will be back at some point, but he obviously got hurt late last season. How are the Lions rushing the passer this year? Like, great, Aiden Hutchinson's awesome. Double him. Who else is beating you? How is it happening? The Lions are going to have to outscore teams. They're going to have to play ball control and keep their defense off the field. Now, without Cade Mays, that's going to become a little harder. Now, I'm leaning towards being out on Detroit this year. I just like other teams in the NFC better. I like other teams in the NFC North better. So I'm probably going to be out on the Lions this year as being a playoff team. But if you're out there listening or watching and you wanted to be in on Detroit, perfectly reasonable. They're the favorite at BetMGM to win the division. The Cade Mays injury maybe doesn't fully take you off that opinion, but should have you second guessing it and questioning it a little bit. That's how big of an impact this could have on Drew Petzing, Jared Goff, and the Lions offense this season. On the other side, I was pretty pissed about something that was said this weekend at the Pro Football Hall of Fame induction ceremony. We'll play you the audio, and I'll tell you why it made me mad. Next.
Unfortunately, Bill couldn't make it here today. There's a lot going on at UNC right now. He may be on a recruiting trip right now looking for the next Lawrence Taylor. I thought it was because training camp had already started, but in truth, it's because he's judging his girlfriend's cheerleading competition.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
So that's the voice of, you have to give him his props, right? The greatest kicker in the history of the National Football League. One of the most clutch kickers in the history of the National Football League, Adam Vinatieri, who goes into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And it was pretty cool, right? The tie that he wore, and he obviously is most well known for being a Patriot because he won 2 Super Bowls at the end of the games, right? But then he went to Indianapolis, won a Super Bowl with the Colts, and it was there that he became the NFL's all-time leading scorer. And he had a great relationship with the late, great Jim Irsay, former owner of the Colts, and wore one of Jim Irsay's old ties for the Hall of Fame speech, had Jim Irsay's daughter Callie Gordon Irsay, introduce him at the Hall of Fame, which, if we're being honest, kind of felt like a shot at the Patriots organization a little bit. That Vinatieri, best known for being a Patriot, has someone from the Colts organization introduce him, wears the Irsay tie. He took a shot at Peyton Manning and his big forehead, whatever, made a couple off-color remarks about Pat McAfee and his testicles. Don't believe me? Go listen to the audio. And he took that shot at Bill Belichick. I do need to say that after the laughter subsided, after that line about judging, talking about Jordan Hudson, his girlfriend, being very young, he did say that he thinks that Bill is the greatest coach of all time. A couple things on this. This is just my opinion. I don't get to dictate to anyone how to do anything, but I have the microphone, so I'm going to give my opinion here. Well, why does Adam Vinatieri wake up in the morning and think that he's Shane Gillis? Like the place-kicking version of Sebastian Maniscalco. Like this is Eddie Murphy stepping. Like who the hell turns on the Pro Football Hall of Fame induction speeches wanting to see open mic night with Adam Vinatieri? Trying out his comedic material. Just joke after joke. Hey, Adam, get up there and thank everybody. Talk about how cool it was to win a bunch of Super Bowls and get off the stage and let Drew Brees go up there and tell jokes. Or Larry Fitzgerald get up there and tell jokes. Or Luke Kuechly get up there and tell jokes. Just like the juxtaposition, and this is not Vinatieri's fault. I want to be clear on that. You have Roger Craig, who finally makes the Hall of Fame after a 28-year wait. Roger Craig. And he can't be there to give his speech because he reveals in a pre-recorded, speech or pre-recorded, message to the crowd that he's been diagnosed with dementia. And that doctors think it's because of, playing running back in the NFL. So we have that, the serious nature of this, an all-time great who had to wait too long to get into the Hall of Fame, despite Roger Craig being Thurman Thomas before Thurman Thomas, being Marshall Faulk before Marshall Faulk, LaDainian Tomlinson before LaDainian Tomlinson, the first ever player in the history of the league to go for 1,000 rushing and 1,000 receiving, who supercharged the Niners dynasty in the 80s. We have him revealing a dementia diagnosis, which is obviously no laughing matter, and send the best to Roger Craig and his family. And then we have Adam Vinatieri doing open mic night, pretending that he's doing stand-up. He thinks he's Jerry Seinfeld. Give me a break here. But whatever. You know what? Adam Vinatieri wants to do comedy. He's earned the right. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He can do that. And you want to take shots at Peyton Manning, about his forehead. It's not really a shot. It's more of like a tongue-in-cheek. They're friends. Make a comment about Pat McAfee. They're clearly friends. Fine. And yes, he did say Bill's the greatest coach ever. But my problem is this. And this pisses me off. Because I feel like I'm in the minority of this. I feel like you, the person watching or listening right now, you are going to be on the other side of this. And that most people, sports fans or not, and this is a function of kind of this story becoming a crossover story that everybody's got an opinion on, and most people know about it, I think most people will disagree with me on this. And I think that is a sports sin. Not a real life sin. This is not a life or death matter. But as far as sports goes, this is a sin. You want to make your jokes about Bill Belichick? I did last week. Remember, I talked about North Carolina football on the show last week. And what I said is the saddest thing about all the sad things, the CVS receipt of things that have gone wrong with North Carolina since Bill Belichick took over, the number one thing, the most offensive thing that's happened, the worst thing that's happened is that they have become irrelevant and that people don't care about North Carolina football with Bill Belichick as the coach. So I'm on record blasting Belichick for what's happened at North Carolina. And he wants to take the shot at North Carolina, great. And I also said last week, as the father of a girl, I'm a girl dad, I think he's a creep. I do think that. I think he's a creep. And if I found out, now my daughter's 2, but if I found out that my 20-plus-year-old daughter wanted to bring home a 70-year-old man, I would want to knock his teeth down his throat. That's me. You can disagree, but I guarantee you, any father listening to this or watching this right now to a girl will agree with me. Creep. But at some point, there needs to be a modicum of respect for this man and what he accomplished as a coach and as a defensive coordinator in the NFL. Because it's like open season now to tee off on Bill Belichick, who somehow, inexplicably, and Mike Sando is going to join us to start next hour. So we'll talk to Mike Sando about this and more, including potential names on next year's ballot: Antonio Brown, Ben Roethlisberger, Rob Gronkowski, etc. Bill Belichick didn't make the Hall of Fame, which is ludicrous beyond words, right? You can hate him. You can think he's a creep. I do. You can think that he's sullied his reputation since leaving the New England Patriots. That's fine. You can have that opinion. But you have to acknowledge he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And not only is he the greatest coach in the history of the National Football League, he's the greatest defensive coordinator in the history of the National Football League. And it's just become in vogue for everybody to bash this guy like he's some curtain-jerking jabroni slappy. And it's not right. You can think he's done a poor job at Carolina. You cannot like his choice in women and age. You cannot like that. But the fact that this guy, Bill Belichick, is such a punchline in Canton, Ohio, where if you took, let's say that there are more, but let's just say there were 100 head coaches in the history of the NFL. Obviously, there are more. Let's say there are 100, and Bill Belichick's one of the 100. Out of the 100, he is the one that almost certainly respects Canton, Ohio, and that building and that place and what it symbolizes more than the other 99. Don't believe me? Ask anybody that's covered him. Someone who appreciates and knows and understands and respects the history of the game. Staked a claim to be the greatest ever. And everyone's going to make their jokes in that fabled place. Just run this guy through. Well, it's okay. He's the greatest coach ever, but I'm going to take my shots at him. Can there be some respect? Can there be a modicum of respect shown for this man and what he accomplished? Or is it just, we're just going to mock this guy forever? Come on. Like open mic night at the Hall of Fame. Adam Vinatieri, maybe his whole life he's wanted to do stand-up comedy. He's like, this is my moment now. I'm going to get all my jokes off. But stop it. I'm sorry. If you out there listening, watching, if you love the history of the National Football League, I do. You don't have to. That's fine. But if you do, like I do, you have to have an issue with this. This can't be what it is. It can't be that this guy has now been rendered Bill Belichick into a joke, into one-liner fodder constantly. I think it's lame. You can criticize. I did last week. But in that place, just like, you know what? Let's just tell jokes about this guy and how everything that's happened post-Patriots has been a total disaster. At the Hall of Fame. Come on. Have some respect for the history of the league. Adam Vinatieri. But otherwise, I thought it was pretty cool. Drew Brees does a nice job. Luke Kuechly going to be calling games on Netflix. Larry Fitzgerald's obviously great. The emotional moment with Roger Craig, and hope that what a terrible thing to announce on such a special day for Roger Craig, diagnosed with dementia. And here's Adam Vinatieri. like doing his George Carlin impersonation. Give me a break. Give me a break. We'll talk to Mike Sando, one of the premier voices of Pro Football Hall of Fame voters of The Athletic, who just came out with quarterback tears. Mike Sando will join us to start next hour. Can't wait to talk all of these topics with the great Mike Sando. But on the other side, we need to talk some Major League Baseball after the weekend that was. And there is a team right now. I'm betting that if you are not dialed into Major League Baseball, you are unaware of what is happening with this specific team and how well this team is playing right now. We'll get into that, the regular season race that I think could decide who wins the American League, and more right after this on You Better You Bet.
on the line. That's a fair ball into the corner. Scoring is McGonigal. Dingler to second with an RBI double and a 3-0 Tigers lead.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Today, BetMGM players will receive an Any Sport Parlay Boost token. To use the Parlay Boost token, add a parlay wager to your bet slip and activate the token. If you win the wager that was made with the token, you will receive extra winnings. Download the BetMGM app today, and please, 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 gamble responsibly. Fox Sports courtesy of The Call. The Detroit Tigers take their third consecutive series, take 2 of 3 from the Giants in San Francisco. And don't look now, but the Detroit Tigers, you know, the team that sold at the deadline in incredible fashion, that traded Tarek Skubal, the reigning 2-time defending Cy Young Award winner, to the Los Angeles Dodgers, traded Casey Mize to the San Diego Padres. Those Detroit Tigers, who look like they were waving the white flag, acknowledging we don't have it this year, even in a bad American league, selling at the deadline. Those Detroit Tigers currently 1 game out of a playoff spot in the American League. 1 game out of the third wild card spot behind the Texas Rangers. Incredible. How about this? When you think about the best teams in the American League, even if Tampa right now has the best record, and by a lot, the Rays at 71-46, I think most people would say, and I'm certainly one of these people, the Yankees and the Red Sox are the 2 most likely teams to go to the World Series. Even if you disagree with that, and I would understand why, right? The New York Yankees run differential this year, plus 82. The Boston Red Sox run differential this year, plus 84. Those teams have 2 of the 3 best run differentials in the American League. The team with the best run differential in the American League, the Detroit Tigers, plus 87. For context, the Tampa Bay Rays, who are 25 games over 500, have a run differential of plus 46. A better run differential by over 40 the Tigers have than the Rays. I don't say this to prop up the Tigers as a team that can win the American League. I believe it will be either the Yankees or the Red Sox, and we'll get to them in a second. But it is absolutely worth talking about this squad and the job that A.J. Hinch is doing right now. Spencer Torkelson referring to the team like the run that they're on right now, and he loves where they're at. They just traded the best pitcher in the world, I guess with apologies. Jacob Mizorowski can make that claim. Others could say it. Skubal, one of a handful of best pitchers in the world. Traded him and Casey Mize at the deadline. Plus 87 run differential, 1 game out of a playoff berth, have won 3 straight series. The lineup's getting healthier. They can absolutely mash the baseball. A.J. Hinch is a championship manager, even if they cheated in Houston. I still, as a Yankee fan, that pisses me off. But you know what? He's a damn good manager. And this team deserves a ton of credit for pulling themselves off the mat after everything that went down and all the talk leading up to the deadline with Skubal and selling at the deadline to play it as well as they've played is a great job by the Detroit Tigers, who could be think how crazy that is, could be a playoff team this year in the American League, despite trading Skubal and trading Casey Mize. A couple other topics in the American League to hit. The New York Yankees, by virtue of taking 2 of 3 this weekend against the Braves, and the Red Sox dropping a series to the Athletics, the Yankees are now 1.5 games up on Boston for the first wild card spot in the AL. So the Yankees are the first wild card team, the Red Sox are the second. You can easily make a case that the winner of what I believe is going to be a wild card series, Yankees-Red Sox, in the AL playoffs, the winner of that series, that best of 3, will win the American League and go to the World Series. So what happens the rest of this regular season between those 2 teams is going to matter a ton, an absolute ton. The Red Sox, it looks like, are going to get back both Roman Anthony and Garrett Crochet. Roman Anthony is now hitting off of a pitching machine. Doesn't mean he's ready to return tomorrow, but that's noteworthy. Garrett Crochet started throwing last week. Still 2 months to go in the regular season. Are the Yankees going to get Aaron Judge back? Judge says he's coming back. How about this weekend for the Yankees against Atlanta? You got a great start from Max Fried, a great start from Garrett Cole, and a great start from Cam Schlittler. They only won 2 of 3, but the Yankees lost 2-1 in the finale, and Schlittler pitched an absolute gem. That 1 through 3 come October is awesome. Is awesome. And what if Judge comes back? So who gets that first and who has home field advantage in that wild card series, I think will matter a lot. The Yankees will start a series tomorrow, Tuesday, at home against the Seattle Mariners. Is there a team that is more disappointing and pull your hair out than this year's Mariners team? So much talent. 3.5 games out of the final wild card spot in the American League. Just finished a 3-6 homestand, 9-18 in their last 27, and losing this weekend, a weekend where they honored 50 of the best players in franchise history. What a disgraceful year it's been for the Seattle Mariners. Final hour, Power Hour coming up next. We will start it talking NFL with Mike Sando from The Athletic.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Bring it up, Laura. Final hour. Power hour. You better you bet on Westwood One Sports. Nick Kostos, our amazing crew. Mike Sando, and you. The Power Hour and every hour here on You Better You Bet, brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. Coming up about 20 minutes from now, I will ask this question to you, our audience. If Matthew Stafford suffered a season-ending injury today, who would the Rams starting quarterback be? Week number 1, Melbourne, Australia, against the San Francisco 49ers. I think my answer will surprise a lot of people. Our bets for tonight will close the show as usual. But joining us right now to kick off the final hour, I love this guy. I love when he comes on You Better You Bet. And everybody should check out Quarterback Tears, which posted last week with our friends at The Athletic. One of the smartest football reporters, writers, analysts out there. Does great work, obviously. It's kind of become like the voice of the Pro Football Hall of Fame voters. So we're always happy to welcome to the show the great Mike Sando on Twitter at SandoNFL with our friends at The Athletic. Mike, welcome back to the show. I guess we can say now, happy football season to you and yours, my friend.
Absolutely. And, you and I must be on the same page. I won't give it away, but you asked me about that Rams quarterback thing. We had the same answer. So that'll be interesting to see what your listeners think of that and who they have in mind.
Now, without giving it away, would you agree or disagree with my assessment that the answer, even though you and I agree, will surprise a lot of people? Is that fair to say or unfair to say?
That's hard for me to know because it was the first thing that came to mind for me, but you never know when you're kind of in it and around
we
it all
are
the
in
time.
it.
You're in it and around it all the time, so it'd be interesting. I would bet you at least half of your listeners would agree.
Oh, well, we will find out coming up. Yeah, we'll find out coming up later this hour. Look forward to that. I have a bunch of questions about quarterback tiers. I will promote it in full, so looking forward to that coming up in a few minutes. But Mike, with the Pro Football Hall of Fame induction ceremonies this weekend, and you kind of becoming one of the prominent voices and faces of the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the voting, etc., I would love to hit you with a couple topics off of this. Are you okay to begin the line of questioning with the Hall of Fame? Okay.
Yeah, I love it.
I went off last hour on the show on Adam Vinatieri, who is... He's the greatest kicker in NFL history, super clutch, most points scored in NFL history, earns the right to say whatever he wants in his Hall of Fame speech. I didn't like that he basically decided to turn this into open mic night and roast everybody like he's Sebastian Maniscalco. And my big point of contention, Mike, is that it feels like to me, and some of it is, self-inflicted wound with Bill Belichick, that Bill has kind of become a punchline and someone that everybody laughs at. And to me, it's kind of crossed the line a little bit here into disrespect when you consider everything that this man accomplished, not just as a head coach, but a defensive coordinator in the NFL. Do you see it like he didn't get into the Hall of Fame and then like his former players are mocking him openly and everybody's having a good laugh at his expense? Do you see it that way?
I would not want the Hall of Fame stuff to turn into open mic night. Totally. I do think it could be an entertaining show, and I think some of that stuff is funny, and I laughed at it. Believe me, I thought it was funny. It surprised me a little bit. It surprised me a little bit that he would do that. Maybe it does show to what degree that Bill Belichick has become a punchline, because it is ridiculous to a lot of people when you see him walking around with someone generations removed from him, dressing like a teenager almost, and he is an older, curmudgeonly, as old school of a guy as you can get. I guess if he can keep a straight face doing this, maybe Adam Vinatieri should too. But sort of is what it is too. When that is the reality, I mean, just think about it. It is kind of a joke.
But what I would, so you're right about that, and I've said that, right? And I'm the father of a girl. I think he's a creep. Like, I think that can be true, but I guess I'll use the word fear, and I know it's a strong word, but I'm obsessed with the NFL. Like, I love and respect the history of this game, right? And my fear is that this guy, whether you like him personally or not, liked him as whatever, I think he's pretty clearly the greatest coach in the history of the sport. And the fact that this is going to be is this what people are going to remember about him? That he's dating a girl 50 years younger? Because this is what all anyone talks about now. I don't think he's getting the respect he deserves from a football perspective, Mike.
Yeah, well, he's certainly not, because the Hall of Fame voters, not me, but others, decided they would vote for all senior candidates last year and left him off. I mean, that to me was a total slap in the face for him. He should have been going in this year. He should be a no-brainer going in. And that other stuff should be more of the footnote than the only thing that's being talked about him during the Hall of Fame. If he had gotten in, as he should have this year, Dan Vinatieri wouldn't say that if he was sitting in the audience, in my opinion.
Right?
Maybe he would. Maybe he would. But I think it would be completely disrespectful to his face. And it's still, you're right. I do think it's disrespectful. Even though I agree that it's his, he's brought it on. But yeah, I don't know. Did you watch the Tom Brady roast?
Okay, I have a real. I had different issues, so I remember the Tom Brady roast because it was May 5th, 2024, and I remember because my daughter was born May 6th, like that morning. So it was the last thing I watched before my wife went into labor and we drove to the hospital. That's how I remember it. So my beef with the Brady roast was not necessary, and I thought Belichick was funny roasting. I didn't like that Brady allowed Giselle, right, wrong, or indifferent, the mother of his children, to get roasted. Like, he's got like the mother of his kids. So that was my beef with the Brady roast.
That's kind of the types of things that I'm talking about. Like, where's the line now? And look,
there is none, right? Like, it's like this is all ridiculous.
And I'm going to tell you, when I was 20 years old, like, Dice Clay was new, and it was not. I mean, you talk about crossing lines, I mean, it was, this stuff's been going on for a long time. Shoot, my neighbor, my neighbor's dad, when I was growing up, took his wife to see Red Fox. It was, they had to leave during the show, so every era has its things that are crossing the line. I get it. I feel like some of those things by these people who are, I guess you learn that your heroes are just people too.
Which is fine. Again, like that can be fine. Just doesn't, I don't know. It feels like there's like a bar of respect that I think needs to be met that is not being met.
Yeah, it would be. It's revealing. I'll put it this way: it's just revealing that these guys feel comfortable doing that to their coach. And I think in this case, it's not. It wasn't laughing with as much as it was laughing at. Does that make sense?
Not only does it make sense.
I would love to know what Belichick thinks. Does Belichick think? Like, does he really think would he laugh along with his guys when they would do this?
Do you have an opinion on that? Like, I don't know him at all. I'm guessing even if you don't know him, you know him better than me in the audience. If you have an opinion on it.
I know him, and I think he has a great reverence for the history of the game. But we've also seen him do, he's played in some of those jokes too, right? I mean, so, I don't know.
What a sideshow.
Yeah. I mean, you would never see Larry Fitzgerald do that. I can tell you that.
All right. So next year's, and we'll get to quarterback tiers. I have a lot to get into with the quarterback tiers, but while we have the opportunity to do this, next year's Hall of Fame class 2027 in the NFL is going to be a really interesting one. We'll get to some of the players, but just like 15 seconds on this, and this is not for, because you voted for him. Do you think Belichick will go in next year if you had to guess? Pencil, not pen for the answer?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the one thing I'm waiting to see is the Hall of Fame hinted after the Belichick thing that there could be changes to the committee, changes to the whatever. They weren't going to do that, in my opinion, before the ceremony because it would detract from the ceremony. That's all anyone would talk about. I think now that the ceremony is over, I would anticipate something to change. So that could affect the dynamics of it, but yes, absolutely. I think that Belichick's going in, and I was shocked that he didn't get in.
All right, I'm going to give you a couple names because there's a long list of potential first inductee. Like Joe Hayden's not going into the Hall of Fame. No disrespect to him. So I have chosen the names that I find to be most interesting here. And I think a couple don't require any explanation because we will agree. Like Rob Gronkowski's going into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. Agree?
Absolutely.
Adrian Peterson will go in on the first ballot. Agree?
Absolutely.
Okay, here's where it gets a little interesting. I believe Ben Roethlisberger is a first ballot Hall of Fame. I watched his whole career. Ben's a first ballot Hall of Fame. And I'm a Giants fan telling you this. And maybe Eli has to wait another year if Ben goes in. Yeah. Will Ben Roethlisberger, in your estimation, go in on the first ballot next year?
I think that I would lean towards yes, but I don't know how the committee will view that. I would think so. You just never know, really, what everybody's thinking on some of these quarterbacks who I think with quarterbacks, do some people think that Eli Manning was better? I don't know what the committee thinks. I know what I think. I would put Roethlisberger in. He'd be one of those guys.
I agree, and I'm a Giants fan saying this, or in the same draft class. Like I'll take Eli over Rivers any day of the week. Ben was a better quarterback than Eli, and I'm the biggest Eli Manning fan in the world saying that. Okay, let's make this a little interesting now. My opinion, now they play different positions. Who was better at his height? Again, acknowledging they play different positions. Antonio Brown or Ben Roethlisberger? I'll take Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown
was absolutely a dominant wide receiver whose credentials on the field, as far as his production, to me, he's an easy one. Now,
but he's crazy, obviously. So, what happens with Antonio Brown?
Look, when I was on the committee when Terrell Owens didn't get in right away. And I was like, what are we doing? Now with Terrell Owens, there was some debate. See, the Hall of Fame's very adamant about hey, you do not take into account the off-field stuff, which we know does come into account. Jim Tyrer was on the committee. He murdered his wife and committed suicide. And so I think that's a factor why he didn't get in my opinion. So I do think those things are in the back of people's mind, but they're not supposed to be. With Terrell Owens, there was some question about whether the off-field stuff actually affected on-field, the way he disrupted Donovan McNabb and all of that. Agree or disagree? That kind of came in. To me, Antonio Brown was just a super dominant player who's easy Hall of Fame credentials, and I'm going to try to explain to the committee that. And I have no idea what the other people are going to think. But to me, the Hall may not like him standing up there, or whoever may not like him standing up there, depending on what he might say. I don't know. What do you think about somebody and how they represent the game? Is that an important thing to you? Or are we just going by the dominance they showed? I don't know how it's going to shake out.
Yeah, I think he's a clear Hall of Fame player if we're going just.
You're worried about what Adam Vinatieri said up there. Wait till you have Antonio Brown up there.
Yeah, Adam Vinatieri's just in poor taste. Antonio Brown's crazy, and I don't say that to poke fun at him. I hope he's well, but just based on field, the guy's obviously
just on his credentials. I think he's better than people may realize. I think he's dominant.
Top five in our lifetime. Because for me, it was always Jerry, Randy, and T.O. are the top three. For me, does Brown crack the top five?
Yeah, well, I think I would put Steve Largent up there too. I think he was
little before my time.
Yeah. He was the forerunner to Rice. Really, he's one of, I believe, 3 players history of the game to retire with the records for catches, yards, and receptions. It's really hard to do. So he's my lifetime. I'm a little older than you, and I would have to probably take a magnifying glass to all the names, but he's closer to that 5 than I think people would realize. I think he'd miss a lot of lists because of the off the field stuff, but as a player, he was great.
So Steve Largent, one of the best players in the history of the Seattle Seahawks, a Pro Football Hall of Famer. Richard Sherman, one of the best players in the history of the Seattle Seahawks. He'll be eligible to go in on the first ballot next year. My opinion, and again, I'm not a voter, Sherman to me is a borderline Hall of Famer. I don't mean that disrespectfully. He's an all-time great. I don't think he's a first ballot guy. What say you about Richard Sherman?
Well, he could be a first ballot guy in some years, but I think when you're naming this class and looking at also the dynamics as we know them, where it's harder to get in than it used to be. Sometimes there's only 3 guys getting in, and the votes are coming at the expense of other people on the list. So how's he going to compete for votes with those guys who are going to all get a bunch of them should get unanimous from the panel. So I think he's got great Hall of Fame credentials. I think it raises also though that defense. That's a defense that led the league in points allowed 4 years in a row. Who should get in? And I think Bobby Wagner's going to go in. I think Sherman will eventually go in, and I think Earl Thomas has a great case that no one's talking about because he disappeared. He's not on, Amazon Prime with Ryan Fitzpatrick and Richard Sherman. He doesn't have that profile. He just disappeared, but he was a huge key to that defense and a great, great player. Ask Gronk's ribs about him.
Yes, and I've always looked at Gronk being, if not the greatest tight end ever, the greatest tight end certainly with Kelsey second. Yeah, he'll walk into the Hall of Fame obviously next year. You bet on this Monday. Nick Kostos and you on Westwood One Sports. Our guest, Mike Sando from The Athletic on Twitter at Sando NFL. Quarterback tiers released last week. This is a must read if you are a fan of the National Football League, which I'm guessing 100% of our audience is. So with that, Mike, I have a couple topics to hit on you with here as it concerns quarterback tiers. The first is, I was very happy to see, as someone who believes Patrick Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the NFL, that Patrick Mahomes was ahead of Josh Allen. They're 1-2 on this list, but Mahomes is still number one. It's curious your opinion here. Is that an opinion you share? Because it feels like a lot of people now in the NFL media think it should be Allen 1, Mahomes 2.
I like that it came out this way, because I think if it didn't, that's all anyone would be talking about, even though only one vote is separating the two. I think it came out perfectly, the order of tier one. I'm totally, I agree with it. Now, if you had to pick who's a tougher matchup next week, on any given day or play, Josh Allen may be a tougher matchup. I don't think that necessarily makes you a better quarterback, though. I think the quarterback is the whole thing. And it is, sometimes knowing how to play the game, right? And it's protecting the ball in the right moments and those types of things. And I think the resume of Patrick Mahomes is beyond reproach that way. And so I agree with where he's at, even though I think that a defensive coordinator might say if we had to play a game tomorrow that Josh Allen could be a tougher matchup. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. What did you make, Mike, of Lamar Jackson not being in tier one of quarterbacks entering this season?
Yeah, so 22 of the 50 voters put him in tier one, 28 didn't. He only spent 1 year in tier one. I think that you could make a great case for him versus Joe Burrow because Burrow's missed time. And so a lot of people that are Ravens fans especially, or just fans in general, wonder what has Burrow got? And so the only thing when I look at the guys in tier one, I think they're a little bit more durable in tier one because all of them have had much better playoff success than Lamar. I think that does hurt him. If you look at the top two guys in tier two, it's him and it's Justin Herbert. Lamar's got multiple MVPs. I think he's on a different level, accomplishments-wise, than Herbert, but they're both super talented guys who haven't made a big dent in the postseason. I think also Burrow gets an edge because he's perceived as such a great passer. And I think passing is always the number one thing. Now, Josh Allen, is he as good of a passer as Lamar Jackson? People in the league think he's a little better. And he has that dual threat capability, which in Lamar's case left him last year. He only averaged 25 yards a game rushing, didn't look like he won a rush. You can make a case that on his own recognizance, on his reputation, on his past accomplishments, he should have got the benefit of the doubt too and been in tier one. 22 voters agreed with that. 28 didn't, so he missed it by those votes. We switched 3 or 4 of those guys over, and he's in tier one at the bottom. I'm fine with that, too.
Speaking of quarterbacks with postseason success, I can't have a huge bone to pick with the voters here because of the way last season went. Although I do think that this ranking, and I'll tell you who it is in a second, is a little disrespect. But some of my bias is involved here because I think this quarterback is better than a lot of people do. Jalen Hurts is 17th on this list.
Yeah.
And I understand how last year went. Also, guy won a Super Bowl, and I think he outplayed Mahomes in the one that they lost also. They didn't lose that game because of Jalen Hurts. Now, again, things did not go great last year. New offensive coordinator, A.J. Brown's now in Foxborough. What did you make, Mike, your opinion of Jalen Hurts coming in at 17th, which says he's below average since there's 32 starting quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, he's right on that line of tier 2, tier 3. I think definitely based on what he's done in a couple of Super Bowls, he could be higher than that. But I also understand the the idea that this is the question I ask people. If you're an Eagles fan and they signed him to the top of the market deal, locking them in for the next 3 years, and they have to pay him, would you think that's a good move? And I think a lot of people say, I don't know.
What do you think? What's your opinion of that? I'm just curious.
I wouldn't do that. My opinion is that his time in Philly could be, that he's on well into the back nine of it. In my opinion, I just think as a team erodes around him, which it will, Lane Johnson's going to retire. I think that he's a great cog in a really good team for his ability to make some of those big plays down the field throwing. But I don't think he's a dynamic passer, and I think he's not going to be I don't think he's even really a dynamic runner now, other than the push type of stuff.
I can't wait to see how this offense looks.
Would he be somebody you'd want to be? Like, if he were another team, how many teams would rather have him than their guy? I think he's probably in a good spot on the list.
I'd love to, just in the interest of time, I'd love to do that exercise if we had time, go through all the quarterbacks. Would team rather have X quarterback or Jalen Hurts?
So
oh, yeah. Oh, I love that. Oh, I can't wait for that.
No, I'm saying I'm supposed to do something at 8:20 here Pacific time.
So you got to, okay. So I had one more question. Do you got to go?
Yeah. Go. Let's go ahead. Give it to me.
Okay. I found this interesting. You give it 30 seconds for the answer. 3 second-year quarterbacks entering year 2. Jackson Dart, 24, Cam Ward, 25, Tyler Shough, 26. What did you make of those three being back-to-back-to-back?
Yeah. Well, I think Tyler Shough has a chance to be the top of all of them next year. And the reason he's the third of them is because hardly anybody played him. So the people who didn't play him just give him a tier 4, which is either Jacoby Brissett, hey, he's not a full season starter, or not enough info. It's the young guy, we don't know what he is. He got a lot of 4s, but the people who played him gave him 3s, and I think 4 people gave him a 2. I think he's got a real chance of that group to be somebody who makes the jump and maybe even goes to the tier 2-3 border.
You're the best, Mike. Appreciate the time. Everybody check him out on Twitter at Sando NFL. Quarterback tiers are live right now on The Athletic. Appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you.
Our pal Mike Sando joining us here on You Better You Bet. Popular guy. Got a lot going on. Just on the Hall of Fame discussion, Rob Gronkowski, in my personal opinion, is the best tight end I've ever seen. Now, Travis Kelce is not far behind. I've seen great one. Tony Gonzalez is probably third, I would say. And that's not meant to be an insult to Tony Gonzalez. Nor is it an insult to Travis Kelce. Kelce, to me, is right behind Gronk. But when you combine Gronk's insane blocking with his pass catching, his physicality, and I actually am happy because Gronk is a little bit of a sideshow off the field. And I think a lot of that is his doing. I think he knows what he's doing to a large degree. He plays into the dumb jock role, right? I don't think people look at Gronk as a sideshow. I think people generally understand how good he was. He's the best tight end in the history of the league. Period. You want to throw out Ozzie Newsome, Kellen Winslow, guys before my time? Maybe. For me, it's Gronk, period. The best ever. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Adrian Peterson is, did you watch him play? Lock, first ballot Hall of Famer. My personal opinion, Ben Roethlisberger is a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. And I think Ben should get in, and maybe I'm an Eli Manning guy, but Eli might have to wait a little bit. I'm cool with that. Eli won the 2 Super Bowls, but aside from that, didn't set the world on fire. I understand why Eli's had to wait. I'm the biggest Eli fan. Just saying. Ben Roethlisberger is a first ballot Hall of Famer. I guess Richard Sherman will get in, and I thought Mike brought up a good point, right? You have this epic Legion of Boom defense, probably should have gone back-to-back and won 2 straight Super Bowls. Bobby Wagner, who's not going to go in for a while because he's been active recently, is the one lock. Richard Sherman will probably get in at some point. Maybe make the case for Earl Thomas, but Sherman will probably get in down the line to the Hall of Fame. The big debate is going to be around Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown is crazy. And I don't say that to poke fun. A lot of you can poke fun at him. I understand. He has issues. And some people will go back to the Vontaze Burfict hit, that dirty hit by Burfict in that wild card game that left Brown laying on the ground as maybe something that screwed Antonio Brown. I don't know. I have no idea. All I know is if you followed Antonio Brown's career, he was not always crazy. This was not always what it was. This is a guy, and again, I understand everything that happened at the end. Well, taking his shirt off and walking off the field with the Bucks at the Jets, and Scott Hansen keep yelling that Antonio Brown is topless, which was really funny. I get it. And everything that's happened since, and the Instagram videos, and the unbelievably crude things that he says about women, I understand. I get it. He's not someone that I would want to invite over to my house for dinner. Want someone hanging around my wife or my daughter or my mic. I don't think he doesn't seem to be a nice guy, a good person. I don't know him though, but that's just my sense. Did you watch him play football? First ballot Hall of Famer. First ballot Hall of Famer. Period. That's how good he was. And I think it will be fascinating to watch if the voters hold all of this stuff against him like they did incorrectly with Terrell Owens, who, again, if you watched him, was a lock first ballot Hall of Famer and had to wait until year 3. It was a disgrace. And Mike Sando agrees with me on that. We've talked about it a lot throughout the years. Antonio Brown should go in on the first ballot. If it's all about football, he should go in on the first ballot. On the other side, well, Mike and I teased it, right? If Matthew Stafford goes down for the season with injury today, who starts for the Rams in week 1? I think my answer will surprise you. Maybe it won't. We'll find out next.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
This segment on You Better You Bet, sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting your business vehicles 24/7. See if you can save at progressivecommercial.com, progressivecommercial.com. Our executive producer, Bill Zimmerman, on vacation for the next 2 weeks. He doesn't want it bad enough. I don't blame him. Football season's almost here. Everybody get your off time in while you can. So, in lieu of Bill, we have Tyler and Dan Turner also coming up with trivia questions. So Bill always has the question at the end of the show. I will take 2 trivia questions today, one from Tyler and one from the man affectionately referred to off air by our crew as the Googler. You've heard of the Riddler. Well, this is the Googler, who Kenny Henderson thinks Googles the answers to all the trivia questions that are asked on the show. So we will get the question from Tyler, the question from Dan. We'll see who has a better question. That's coming up at the end of this segment. And bets will come up at the end of the show. We ended the week hot. Let's keep it rolling here today. We're getting into betting season here with football rapidly approaching. My question for everybody. I hope this does not happen, because I never want anybody to get hurt. Let's say Matthew Stafford suffers a season-ending injury today. And even if it's not season-ending, whatever, he's going to be out for some period of time into the regular season. Who do you think would start for the Rams week 1 in Melbourne, Australia, against division rival San Francisco? My guess, I can be wrong about this. My guess is if you asked a casual football, and I don't mean that as an insult to say a casual fan, the average football fan, my guess is their answer would be Ty Simpson. Since, you know, the Rams spent the 13th pick in the draft this past April on Ty Simpson, presumably to be the quarterback of the future. And if you listen to a lot of people and read what a lot of people wrote, to be the break glass in case, well, what if Matthew Stafford gets hurt? Now we have a quarterback, a young quarterback that we can turn to in Ty Simpson. I don't want to say it's an underreported story, only because, like, as long as Stafford's healthy, like, it doesn't matter really, because Stafford's the reigning league MVP. But are you aware right now, you the person watching and listening, that Sean McVay, Rams head coach, has announced which of his backup quarterbacks will be playing in the preseason, specifically this Saturday against the Kansas City Chiefs? And keep in mind, we know this because it happens every year. McVay's been the coach for almost a decade now in Los Angeles. He doesn't play his starters in the preseason, ever. Or he doesn't even really play backups in the preseason. Guess who's going to be playing extensively this weekend against the Kansas City Chiefs? I'll give you a hint. It's not Matthew Stafford. I'll give you another hint. It's not Stetson Bennett. It's Ty Simpson. Now, today is August 10th. There's a lot of time for this to get figured out. If I had to guess right now, and to be clear, I'm not pulling this out of thin air. I think if you asked a lot of people right now around the league, they would answer this the same way. Who would the Rams' backup quarterback be if the season started today? I think it would be Stetson Bennett, not Ty Simpson. So I'll ask the question again. Now, and think about it, right? If we're framing things this way, Simpson's, and maybe Ty Simpson sets the world on fire in preseason and changes it. That can happen, right? But just talking as it stands right now. If Ty Simpson's not the answer to the question as to who would start week 1 if Matthew Stafford got hurt, do you think Stetson Bennett is the answer to that question? In a Super Bowl or bust year for the Rams, where they trade for Myles Garrett, and there was a report this weekend that Aaron Donald will make his decision this week whether or not to return to the Rams this season. Do you think it would be Stetson Bennett, who Sean McVay reportedly loves? I actually think the answer is not on the roster right now. And I asked Mike Sando, and he agreed with me. We did it off air before he came on to start the Power Hour today. I believe that the answer is Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy has been the Rams' backup quarterback the last couple seasons. Jimmy Garoppolo did not re-sign with the Rams because the thought was that he's going to retire. Did you notice recently that the reports have started to come out that Jimmy Garoppolo would be willing to reconsider retirement and come out of potential this quasi-retirement for the right situation? Do you think Jimmy Garoppolo would be interested in backing up Matthew Stafford? Or, and to be clear, Stafford has not gotten hurt. I'm not saying he will. But if he did, you don't think Jimmy Garoppolo would want to sign with the Rams? Let me ask a better question. Let's say Stafford got hurt. Do you think the Rams would roll into the season with Stetson Bennett and Ty Simpson as their two quarterbacks? Or do you think they'd go and bring back Jimmy Garoppolo? What do you think happens? I'm not going to bury Ty Simpson or even come close to it. You better you bet on this Monday. Nick Kostos and you here on Westwood One Sports. I'm not going to bury him. Yes, they haven't played a game yet in the regular season. He hasn't played maybe he lights it up this weekend in the preseason. And we come on the air on Monday and we're talking about how awesome Ty Simpson was and what a great pick. It's possible, right? But if this continues to hold and Stetson Bennett is more likely to be, Stetson won 2 national championships at Georgia. This is not a slappy here. If Stetson Bennett's more likely to be the QB2, and maybe the idea is Ty Simpson's on ice for this season, and it is a full redshirt year, with the goal being, obviously, that Ty Simpson is the starting quarterback of this team down the road when Matthew Stafford retires. If that's true, I still can't believe that they took this dude 13th overall. This is a Super Bowl or bust year for the Rams. It could be the final year. I'm not in his head to know. It feels like Matthew Stafford's nearing the end, right? How many seasons does he have max? 2? This could be it, right, for Matthew Stafford. If Ty Simpson's not even good enough at this point to be the backup, he can't, because right to this point, he has not beaten out Stetson Bennett. I'm not saying he won't, but it hasn't happened yet. If he's not going to, why in the world did the Rams not draft Casey Concepcion for some speed at the receiver position, which they don't have? Maybe you think even if he's not the speediest, they could have drafted Mekhi Lemon. And I'm not the only person that says this, although I'm beating the drum pretty loud on it. I'm concerned about the Rams' offense, specifically their offensive tackles. Alaric Jackson's in legal trouble. He's got blood clots. Maybe it'll all be great. Maybe he'll be Walter Jones this season. I don't know. And Warren McClendon on the right side. You couldn't draft Monroe Freeling, what the Panthers did. You couldn't draft Blake Miller like the Lions did. Someone to help you win now in a Super Bowl or bust year if the quarterback you took can't even be the one play away guy? Even if you think I'm an idiot, you're welcome to think, I don't care, whatever. I don't care. Thank you for listening and watching the show. That's all I care about. I hope you think and you know that Mike Sando's not an idiot. Mike Sando off air had the same answer that I had, that Jimmy Garoppolo is the answer to the question. And if that's true, do you think the Rams should have drafted Ty Simpson? Even if you want to do this galaxy brain projection, and I don't want to, that's not fair to say. Because, to be fair, Sean McVay is very well respected, as is Les Snead, and maybe they think that 2 years from now, Ty Simpson's going to be a Pro Bowler, an all-pro cat. I have no idea. Do you think it was the right pick? Or should it have been someone that helps them win now? Speaking of now, and right now, let's get some trivia questions before we end the show with bets for tonight. So Dan Turner will go second. Dan has a trivia question. The Googler, Dan Turner, which is like the Riddler's like on the spectrum brother, the Googler. Tyler Morales is with us here with the trivia question of the day. Tyler, what do we got?
All right, we talked about this guy earlier in the show today. Laramie Tunsil fell to the 13th pick of the 2016 NFL Draft due to his, legendary gas mask bong incident. Yes. The first 7 picks of that draft made a Pro Bowl. Can you name those 7 players?
So this is the first 7 players in 2016.
Correct.
All right, so 2016 is I drank too much at Saratoga this weekend. So who was the first? Was Goff the first pick in 2016, or Goff is 25th? Oh, so Goff's the first pick. Okay, so it's Goff. It's Wentz.
Correct.
Oh man, can you give me teams?
The Chargers. You'll get these.
I don't know who the Chargers is. It was that early. It was Mike Williams.
Defensive player.
Not Derwin, right? Joey Bosa.
Nope. Joey Bosa. Yep.
Okay. Next.
Cowboys 4.
Zeke.
Yes. Jacksonville 5th.
This was not the Fournette draft.
Nope. He's also a defensive player. Multiple All-Pros.
How bad is it that I'm not getting this right now?
He's still playing. He's still impact player.
It's not Josh Allen.
Jalen Ramsey.
Ramsey. Okay, I should have gotten that. Okay.
Sixth Baltimore Ravens, and the 7th were the 49ers.
Just give it to me.
Ronnie Stanley went 6th to the Baltimore Ravens, and DeForest Buckner went 7th to the 49ers.
Great trivia. All right, so that's a good trivia question from Tyler. Let's see if Dan Turner has a better trivia question. Dan, what do you have for us here today?
Okay, so with the Pro Football Hall of Fame induction being this past weekend, my question is simple. Which 5 college programs have the most Pro Football Hall of Famers?
Oh, Tyler, would you like to join this with me? Tyler's a big college football guy. We'll go with the big pro, like Ohio State would be.
Yes,
would
Ohio
be,
State, yes.
They're number 5.
Alabama?
Nope.
USC?
They're number 2.
Okay. Do you think Notre Dame is an answer?
I was just going to say Notre Dame. Yeah, let's go with Notre Dame.
Notre Dame?
They're number 1.
Okay.
Now, does Miami have all those guys in you? Because Miami came to my head.
Miami's number 6. So not
Miami's just outside the top. Michigan.
Michigan's number 4. So you're missing number 3.
We're missing number 3. Okay. Oklahoma.
No.
Not Texas?
Not Texas.
Oh, it's interesting. I would have thought Texas would. When you said that, I thought that would have been right. So, who are we missing here? Big name school.
Big name schools. Tennessee wouldn't be it, right?
Tennessee probably not, right?
It
that's
is not
wrong.
the SEC. That's your hint. It's not the SEC.
Okay, it's not the SEC. I just brought up the odds board here. Let's see. I don't think it's Georgia. Is LSU?
No, not the SEC.
Not the
okay.
SEC. No,
Penn State.
No.
Pittsburgh?
Florida State.
It is Pittsburgh.
It is a good.
There
It
you
is
go.
Pittsburgh. Great.
There you go.
You know, our buddy Dave Damashek, who's a big Pittsburgh guy, put out like, if you actually look at Pitt's like all time, like all 22, like the best starter at every position, you put them up against any great program in the history of college football, and they stand the test. Honestly, great trivia questions from both guys, and I think kind of pathetic job by me. I'm rounding my brain into midseason form. We're almost there. It's August 10th. One more break, and on the other side, our bets for tonight, we look to keep the hot streak going on You Better You Bet.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Today, BetMGM players will receive an Any Sport Parlay Boost token. To use the Parlay Boost token, add a parlay wager to your bet slip and activate the token. If you win the wager made with the token, you'll receive extra winnings. Download the BetMGM app today, and please gamble responsibly. Thanks to our guest today, Brad Evans, returning tonight on BetMGM Tonight with Pat Boyle on Westwood One Sports, and the great Mike Sando from The Athletic. Thanks to Tyler, thanks to Kenny, thanks to Mike, thanks to Dan, and thanks to Laura. NFL preseason, week 1, Hall of Fame game doesn't count. Week 1, coming up this Thursday. We will talk about it all week this week. I can't wait to bet week 1 of the preseason. Some people will hear that and think, wow, how could you do that? I think we'll find some good spots, like we did last week with the Carolina Panthers. But for now, we talk baseball. And I had to bet this glorious sport on this Monday. So Laura, please kindly drop the dope-ass beat. I was a little sad, I'll be honest, when I looked this morning to see if the Detroit Tigers were playing today. Wanted to bet the Tigers to keep their hot run of form up, but unfortunately, the Tigers do not return to our lives until tomorrow when they open up a pretty critical set at home against the Cleveland Guardians. Half game between Detroit and Cleveland in both the American League Central race and for the American League wild card. We also don't get to bet against the Mariners. They open up a set tomorrow in the Bronx against my Yankees. So instead, let's stick with a team that we backed at the end of last week and got the job done for us. I would like to ride, a sentence that not a lot of people have said this year. I would like to ride the New York Metropolitans. The Mets, quietly, and I mean quietly, are playing better baseball. They swept the Cleveland Guardians and then just took 2 of 3 on the road in Pittsburgh. Now tonight, they start a set on the road in Atlanta against the Braves. Worth noting, the Yankees just took 2 of 3 from Atlanta. And like I told you, Mets are playing better baseball right now. So I'll take a shot on the New York Mets tonight on the road in Atlanta. Mets plus 25. In Atlanta. Also, I was going to give out the Toronto Blue Jays as a home dog against the Red Sox. That line has moved 25 cents since we came on the air. If I had to bet the game, I'd bet the Blue Jays plus 125. That does it for the Monday edition of the show. I'll be back tomorrow on a Tuesday. I'm looking forward to that. Until then, I'm Nick Kostos wishing you minimal sweats, winning bets, and the absolute very best of luck.